everybody. Lesson 95. Okay, this is actually a rather quick lesson. What we're talking about today is the volume of a right solid. Now, what a right solid actually is, it's a shape where the base of the shape sits at right angles to the side of the shape. So right here, if you're looking at, let's just look at this cylinder right here. The base of the cylinder is actually, if you kind of would draw a line there to the a radius at the bottom of that cylinder, it sits at right angles to the side, okay? So what we're going to talk about measuring the volume, it's a very simple calculation. So the volume of a right solid equals the area of the base times the height. And the area of the base will be different shapes that you guys already know how to calculate. So if we look at this cube right here, this is a good way for us to kind of visualize why this formula works. That volume is the area of the base times the height. And guys, when you write these out, you have to always start with volume equals area of the base times the height. And then you fill in all your numbers down from there. So right here, if we're trying to find the volume of this cube here, what we would be looking at first is the area of the base. So what would kind of be the shape of the base of this structure? It would be a rectangle, okay? And if you look at this figure, you know, one side of the rectangle would be 5 meters. The other side would be 2 meters. So how do you find the area of this base? Well, it would be area is length times width. So area would be 5 meters times 2 meters. So the area would equal 10 meters squared. Okay? So that would be the base. And if you count these little blocks, that's why it's drawn this way in your book, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks are on the first layer. And then there's another layer behind that would be another 5 blocks. So the area of the base is 10 square meters. Each of those little cubes is a meter squared. Then to find the volume, we've got to take that area of that base, multiply it by the height. So the height here is 3 meters. So if we were using our formula, and actually I think you guys can see over here. I'm going to write it over here. So volume equals area of the base times the height. Volume equals the area of the base, which would be length times width times the height. Okay, so the volume would equal 5 meters times 2 meters. Okay, and then we got to multiply, you don't even have to put that dot, we have to multiply that by the height. So the height of this is 3 meters. So the volume would equal 5 meters times 2 meters times 3 meters. We already did the first part inside the parentheses. That would be 10 meters squared times 3 meters. And then if you multiply 10 times 3, you'd be 30. Meters squared times meters would give you meters cubed. Okay? Now, you don't have to do this in all of these steps. It doesn't have to be quite so many steps, but you do have to at least, let me show you what like the minimum I want to see. The minimum I want to see, area of the base times height. You got to start with that for volume. Then you need to put in the formula for whatever shape your base is, because we're getting ready to talk about the shape of the base will be different in different structures. So here, the base is a rectangle, so the formula for the area of your base is length times width. And you got to multiply that times height. So once you have your formula all written out, then you can plug in your numbers. So there you would have 5 meters times 2 meters times 3 meters. Do what's in the parentheses first. 10 meters squared times 3 meters. And it would equal 30 meters cubed. Okay? And you always have cubic units when you're working with volume. Okay? Now, if we're looking at different figures, we can use this formula for any right solid. So this is one that we just did. This is the one like where the base would be a rectangle or a square. Okay? So the volume would be the area of the base multiplied times the height. Now, if we have this type of a structure, what shape is this right here? Okay, it's a triangle. And you see the base is the same shape. Okay. When we're figuring the area of the base for a right solid, you need to make sure that the base is the shape that runs through the whole structure. So this figure right here, if you take that triangle, it runs all the way through. You have a triangle on the bottom and a triangle on the top. Here, a square runs all the way through it. Here, with this cylinder, a circle runs all the way through this. Okay? So the area of the base here, if we said area of the base times the height, how do we calculate the area of a triangle? Okay, so volume would be base times height divided by 2, because that's our formula for the area of a triangle, and multiply that times your height. Get it this far without plugging in numbers, and then whatever measurements you're given, you can plug those in. Same thing with the circle, okay? Volume equals area, I should say cylinder, but we've got a circle for the base. So it's area of the base times the height. So the volume equals, how do we do the area of a circle? Okay, that we have a different formula. It's pi r squared, and we multiply that times the height. And then you'll be given some of these numbers. You just plug those in to find your answer. Now, if you look in the book on page 651, the first example says, find the volume of the right triangular prism below. Dimensions are in centimeters. Okay, the base of a solid, okay, is a particular shape. Okay, if that shape runs all the way through, we call it a prism. Okay, so this right here would be a triangular prism. If you look in the first example at the drawing, that's the first one on the left, okay, this is what this figure looks like. Okay, you've got a triangle right here. Then, let's see if I can draw this correctly. Okay, so what we have here is a figure that's kind of sitting on a, what you might want to call a base that's shaped like a rectangle. But for our formula, the base is the shape that runs through the solid. So does that rectangle run all the way through the solid? No. The shape that runs all the way through the solid is that triangle. So this technically is the base of that solid, even though in the picture it's not sitting on that base. Okay? And it says here they show two views of the prism just to help you orient yourself. So the area of the base is the area of the triangle, okay, multiplied by the height, okay? And then they'll do the exact same thing with the cylinder, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go over the lesson practice with you real quickly. I'm going to give you guys the answers to the lesson practice and show you how to set them up. when you're doing this video, if you're struggling at all with this concept, the best way for you to approach this would be to pause and see if you can do the practice before I give you the answer. All right? And that's going to be up to you how you approach that. So there's A, B, C, D, and E. It says find the volume of each right solid shown. Dimensions are in centimeters. Okay? So the first one, A, it's something kind of shaped like this. Okay? And it shows you that this, let's see, is 8, this side is 6, and this side is 12. So the volume is going to equal the area of the base times the height. What's the area of the base? What is the base in this figure? It's a triangle, okay? So the way that you would do that, you would first go base times height divided by 2 multiplied times the height. So the volume is going to equal the base, which is 6, the height is 8, divided by 2, and all that multiplied by 12, which would be the height of the whole figure. And if you multiply that out, pause the video so you can multiply it out. The answer that you should get would be 288 cubic centimeters. Okay? Everybody got that? All right. B, okay, it's another triangular prism. And what B shows us, okay, we've got a triangle that looks something like this, and then you've got your shape going back like that. We've got the base is 10. We've got, this is a right angle, our height is 6. And then back here would be our length. So volume equals area of the base times the height. The base, the shape that runs all the way through this figure, the shape running all the way through is a triangle. So base times height divided by 2 is the formula for that, times height. And then you plug in your numbers. Your base is 10. Your height is 6. Divided by 2, multiply that times 12. So your volume, and it tells you this is, all the dimensions are in centimeters in this. So you multiply all of this out, and your answer would be 360 cubic centimeters. All right. C says to, it's a cylinder, says to leave pi as pi. All right. This one, we got a cylinder. Volume equals area of the base times the height. Volume is, what's the area of the base for a circle? It's pi r squared times the height. So now plug in your numbers. Okay. It says to leave pi is pi, so we have pi. The radius, okay, it shows us the diameter in the picture. It says that this distance across is 6, so the radius is 3 squared. And then the height of the cylinder is 10. And again, these are all centimeters, okay? So the volume, when you work out the whole thing, would end up being pi, 3 squared is 9, times 10. So the volume would equal pi times 90 cubic centimeters. Or you could say 90 pi cubic centimeters. Either way is fine. All right. I want you to go through and work out D and E as well. D, you're going to have to, it's got a different shape, okay? So this one, if I can draw this real quick for you, has this kind of a shape going on. All right. Something like that. And you're told this is 7, this is 5, this is 3, this is 2, and this is 10. Okay. Now, again, is there one shape that runs all the way through this thing? There absolutely is. Okay. This L shape runs all the way through this figure. So the area of your base is going to be, if this is 3, right there, okay, this is 7, this is 2, okay. Do we know enough? We know this is 7 and that's 2, so we can figure out that. If that's 2 and that's 5, then that little section's 3. So you can divide that into 2 sections, okay? So it would be 3 times 3, which would be 9. And then this would be 2 times 7, which would be 14. So the area of the base would be the length times the width of one, length times the width of the other. So it would be 3 times 3 plus 2 times 7. Okay, so it would be 9 plus 14. Okay, so it would be 23 centimeters squared. Okay, then, do you see what I did? I just am figuring out the area of the base. Then I have to take that area of that base, and the way I would write it in my formula is like this. If you wanted to write volume equals area of the base times the height, you could just move it over here and say your area of your base was 23 centimeters squared, and then you got to multiply that times the height, which is 10 centimeters. So the volume would equal 230 cubic centimeters. What I was showing you here, if you wanted to write the whole thing out, volume equals area of the base times the height. Here's how you would do it. You'd say volume equals, okay, length times width plus length times width, okay? All of that then multiplied by the height. So the volume would equal, and you could fill in these numbers, it ended up being 9 plus 14 times 10. So the volume ended up being 23 times 10, 230 cubic centimeters, okay? All right, and the last one I think you guys can do on your own. It's another cylinder. So practice those. We'll chat during the week if you have any trouble. That's lesson 95.